Hello, and welcome to this episode of Tru North. My name is Padraig, and today we have a really open and honest conversation with Ciara Daly. Ciara is most well known for her business, Ciara Daly Makeup, and in this conversation we explore just how Ciara helps others feel good in themselves through the power of community in her business. Ciara also talks to me in this conversation about her own battles with depression, grief, and we also look at some of the ways in which Ciara was able to look at alternative and complementary therapeutics to help her face her own challenges. And this is something that Ciara is very passionate about sharing in the world today. How to feel good, live a better quality of life, and know who you are by finding true happiness through various alternative practices if that is something that interests you. This conversation does go deep, and for some, this may be quite raw. I know for Ciara and I, it was a truly open conversation and a space to share that vulnerability. So please keep an open mind when listening or watching this episode. I am so happy to be able to share this experience with Ciara Daly today. So instead of waiting around, let's get into it. Ciara, welcome.
Hello.
Just to kick us off, like we always do, I just like to give everybody else and give myself obviously a bit more of an understanding of who you are, and even, you know, where you've come from as well. So for those that don't know Ciara Daly, give us, if you can, an understanding of who you are and what you do in your own words.
Do you know, even though I've been asked this question on various different podcasts and, different things that we've been doing, I always kind of go, I don't know.
Question it.
But that's the ever-changing question. Who are you? Who am I? You know,
Yeah.
this is really what part of this journey is about. Who am I? You know, is that the labels that we're given from we're born, or the job that we do, or whatever, or what's my values? You know, but for the sake of the conversation, I'm Ciara. I am 44. I have probably most well known as being a makeup artist and having a makeup company for the past 100 years, I think maybe about 17 years now. So most people know me as Ciara Daly, the makeup artist. I'm also a mother of two, but that's kind of what I'm known for. But I also am co-founder of Happy Face with Kieran May, which I know you've had on. It still stumps me. Mother, daughter, sister, friend, business owner, property owner. I've got my finger in a lot of pies, Padraig.
Yeah. I think I've done that myself.
Yeah.
Just, I think I have done a mixture of creative things probably, but I think it's good when you do dip your toe into loads of different things, because it gives you experience, it gives you knowledge, and I know knowledge is only potential power, but then you're putting that to practice,
100%, yeah.
In terms of the background in makeup, I'm curious, obviously, because I don't use makeup, but how did that all sort of come about for you?
Well, growing up, I was always, the only thing that was my biggest passion growing up was always art or being a dancer on Top of the Pops. That was my two loves growing up. But I was always colouring in. I was always painting. It was the only thing really in secondary school and stuff that I just wanted to be in the art department all the time. Of course, I was switched on, I was smart enough, but I didn't enjoy the academic side of stuff. I just wanted to be in the art department. So, I used to beak off other classes, just go down and do some art. I had a cool art teacher. But at 18, it was, do I go to art college or what do I do? And obviously other things were happening in my life, and I found art to be very isolating and lonely, and I am a talker, social, wanted to be around a lot of people, so it wasn't the right fit for me at the time. So I went to college, done a business course, arsed about in college as you do for a couple of years, got a job, got another job, started off like, oh, I'll just do this, or aye, that'll do me. You know, when you don't really know what it is you want to do or be or whatever, you're just kind of working to get your money to go out at the weekends. So I did lots of jobs like, you know, selling washing machines, the tumble dryers, TVs, and then I was selling plumbing at one point, and I found that I was good at sales.
Yeah.
You know, funny enough, talking. So, you know, and then I got a job in the hair and beauty industry, and I was a rep out on the road for GHD when they first came around over 20 years ago. So that got me into the hair and beauty industry, which I loved. I loved the whole thing. And I was always the friend who everybody went to, oh, Carol, do your eyes. Carol, do your makeup. You know, before going to a makeup artist was the thing. This is over 20 years ago. So it was nearly like, I remember being in my mid-20s and going to some, you know, going to the Mac Girls and Debenhams and going to some of the big hair shows and watching the makeup artists and just being fascinated and going, God, I wish I had done that when I left school. Yeah. I'm feeling in my mid-20s that I was too old to start something new, you know. And so my mother died very suddenly at a young age. She was only 48, and it was a massive wake-up call to me that this is not a dress rehearsal. And it was just, you know, we all have points in our lives that we can refer back to that pivoted in a certain direction. So I took a bit of my mum's inheritance and I went and trained as a makeup artist. So it was all very, you know, I remember watching, my mum was a stewardess, so I remember watching her putting her makeup on, you know, going from mummy with a house coat and doing the housework to the transformation, the doing her makeup, blow drying her hair, getting her uniform on. And it wasn't the transformation in the physical, it was the transformation in the energy that just, I used to be like, oh, you know, she just lit up. When my mum got her hair and makeup done and put her uniform on, she just lit up, and that was her away out to work, you know.
Did you find that like she was a different
energy
person almost in a way?
It just, when I'm talking to my clients or my students or whatever, it's just, it's the change in energy. It's not even what they look like, it's how they feel. It's like, oh, wow. And that's the thing. That's the thing. It's watching someone's energy just be like, and the confidence that gives them, and the, oh my goodness, look at how I can look and feel, is incredible. And that's something I will never tire of. So that was how I started. So I did the makeup. And then I did the makeup course. So then you're like, right, okay, now I'm trained as a makeup artist, but you have no confidence in building. You have no confidence in getting clients. You have no confidence in asking people to hand you money to do your skill. So all of this, at that time, I was like, oh my God, am I good enough to ask someone, you know, pay me to do your makeup? So it was all them learning things. And then I got married, I had 2 children, 2 babies, then my marriage fell apart all within the space of a couple of years. So I was at a very bad position. I had also invested in properties. This was 2009. So my world had just crashed down around me. So at that point, Padraig, it was just sink or swim time for me. It was like, I need to get my shit together here because, and again, I've talked about this in other interviews and conversations. I had to decide whether to, am I going to really find my inner courage and go for this, or am I just going to kind of hope for the best? So there's just so many things, you know. There was a student came and she bought me a book called Broken Open, and it's about the Phoenix process. And it's about how something really hard in your life, like trauma or whatever, and you have your rebirth, your phoenix process. So that is, I then started to have my phoenix process. Like, it was so hard. You know, I'd lost my mum, 2 babies, single parent, financial crises. And yeah, so it's called, someone says, post-traumatic growth. So that was really when my makeup business started. I threw myself into my makeup business, and that was when I started to grow, I guess, you know.
Do you think that throwing yourself into it was a form of escapism,
Yes.
or was it passion?
A complete both.
Right.
I remember having I'll specifically remember this day. You know, I was dealing with the trauma and the upset of my marriage being over and all the different stuff. And I went into work and I did a few makeups. And I remember at the end of that, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours going, oh, I haven't thought about all my shit.
Yeah.
So it was completely both. Doing makeup was escapism because I didn't have to, it gave my brain a chance to not think and obsess about all the crap that was happening. But also, doing makeup is creative. You're painting pictures. Even the somatic touch of doing someone's face, you know, people, it's a very special job. People see it as a bit kind of, what's the word, shallow, or what's the word I'm looking for? Superficial.
Yeah.
It really isn't, you know. And when I explain to people, I'm painting a very intimate picture onto your face to make you feel different.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just, here's your smoky eye, away you go.
Yeah.
Like, I connect with that person. You know, and hairdressers will tell you the same thing. It's a lot more intimate in mind, body and soul doing someone's makeup. Now, of course, some more so than others. Some people just want to get their makeup done. They don't want to talk or connect or all the other stuff, and that's okay too. But yes, and the connecting with the other women, and when you're painting someone's face and somatically being connected with them, they will open up too. So then you're getting all this wisdom and experience and empathy and sympathy from all these other women, and the exchange of energy there is all what helped heal me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, connection and community, I suppose. It just makes me think about, you know, the experiences that maybe we would have as men in like barbershops.
Yes.
You know, because I know there are people that go into barbershop and they love talking, you know, they love the conversation. And then there's others who probably would have been a bit more like me, a bit more introverted. And the barber would be like, how's your day going? You know, what are you getting up to at the weekend and stuff like that. Although it was the same old sort of stuff that was coming off. It was a way for you to open up, I suppose, in a sense. And I'm sure that's probably helped a lot of women as well that have come into you. Or just generally anybody that's coming into you, because I'm sure it's not just women. In terms of, you know, their mental health and being able to just be open and be vulnerable, especially if they don't really know you that well, because sometimes it's easier to be open with somebody you don't know than somebody you do.
It's an energy, isn't it? It's like see what you said there. I completely relate to that too, because sometimes I don't want to. I just want someone. Some women come in, they're like, and they're like, Jesus, that was so relaxing. So they don't open up and talk, and sure. But I've looked after them for an hour. I've held space for them for an hour, and you know, and just let them relax. So it's. I think it's reading that energy. What do they need?
Yeah.
Do they just need me to paint their face and let them relax, or do they want to, you know? So that's something. And you know, I think a lot of people, you know, the girl who, you know, I kind of send them down the stairs and I go, geez, that was like a therapy session, or God, that was really relaxed, or God, that was a great laugh. So different experience every time, you know.
And I think as a guy who obviously doesn't wear makeup but does his best to get his hair cut as often as he can, even, you know, when you come out of a barber's and your hair's cut, and I'm sure it's probably the same when you get, like, you go into hairdressers and get your hair cut, or get your makeup done, you know, you come out feeling so fresh. And we're talking about somatic touch, you know, and if we can explain a wee bit more about that. But I'm just thinking about that experience when I get my hair cut, you know, and just thinking back to just the feeling of the razor up against the head and stuff like that, you know, albeit it's metallic, but it is actually, you know, touch is so important to us. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on somatic touch and somatic healing.
You know, it is so important. And I say to people, I get a lot of women might be going through either a grief or a divorce, and I'm like, have you booked yourself in for a massage? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, but when's the last time someone really touched you or held you? Or, you know, because I know in periods of my life, if I'm single, I need a massage. And it's someone, well, you know, I have 2 kids, but they're teenagers. There's only so many hugs they'll give you now, you know. But whenever someone, like I had a bit of a wall there recently, and my friend come up, and I'm like, I just don't even want to talk. I am burnt out. And she's come here, I'll rub your feet. And she sat and she rubbed my feet, and I could have cried. I literally could have cried. I didn't realise how starved of that somatic touch I was, and it was exactly the right thing. So sometimes we don't even know that's what we're missing. It's just it's, you know, or, you know, like another friend says recently, yeah, I remember being upset over this thing and my daughter coming in and just rubbing my back. You know, somatic touch is so important.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, you obviously might know a bit more about somatic touch and somatic healing than I do, because it's not really something I look too much into. But for those that don't know, what is somatic?
All somatic means is in the body. That's it. These words are getting thrown about, somatic, shamanic, and it's like, well, what the hell are they talking about? Somatic is just your body. It's feelings, touch, you know, listening to your body. So that's it. Because people are like, am I missing something? I don't know what that means. No, it just means, how does that make you feel? Like somatic touch, the actual, is it, you know, soft, you know, pressure, like you know, you could say a masseuse is a somatic healer. That's it. That's all it means. Somatic is just the awareness of the actual body.
Yeah. And were you doing am I right in saying you were doing a course or something like that on that?
Yes, I did a somatic healing therapy course before Christmas. And it really is, like, even before I came in, before this interview, for anybody listening, and I was all over the place, and I just literally needed to sit down for a couple of minutes, close my eyes, and come back into my body, just because my head had 20 million things going on. So it's like, come back into your body, so come back into your somatic awareness. And it's like, right, I'm here. My feet's on the floor, my hands is on the armchair, you know, just coming back into your body.
And I think that's probably really important to help you refocus. You know, it's not just helping you ground, but when you're doing that, you're refocusing. You're going, okay, what am I doing now? Like, what's the next part of my process? What's the next part of my journey today? And I think, like, that's such a big thing now, because we live in such, like, a fast-paced world, such a social, I'm not even going to say social media interactive kind of world. I feel like it's more media rather than social. Rather than social media, because the social element of it seems to be coming away a little bit. And don't get me wrong, social media is amazing for various different things, but there are certain elements of it that aren't as beneficial to even just mental health, you know, as I'm sure many people will be aware of. But it is quite good for a lot of different things.
When you kind of understand the laws of the universe, there's always the law of the opposites, isn't there? The polarity. So people go, social media, it's awful, it's terrible. It's give girls a complex. I had this conversation the other day at work, and it's like, it's terrible because you're comparing yourself. And whilst I agree with what they're saying, So, but then I try to use the law of polarity and go, okay, so what's the flip side of that? And the flip side of that is, without social media and all of that, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now, to learn the ways.
Yeah.
Like at 20, 21 or whatever, you know, people say, oh, I'd hate to be growing up with social media now. And I go, there's part of me kind of wishes that we had what we had now before I got really sick with depression in my 20s. Now, because of social media, I have been able, and internet and all that, now I understand, because look at the knowledge that you have. You have the world's knowledge in your pocket.
Literally, yeah.
We didn't have that 20 years ago. So the first time I suffered from depression, I did not have a clue what was going on. Absolutely no clue. I had to go to the library to get a book out on depression.
Wow.
Imagine that.
And that's probably the last thing that you want to be doing when you're feeling that way.
Yes, because you can't even read a book when you're bad in depression if your mind isn't functioning properly. I couldn't talk to you. It's very hard to remember when you didn't have awareness. It's very hard for this generation to imagine what a life was like. It's hard for me to even remember, God, you remember we didn't know that. Whereas now it's like, you know, I always say to people, you could go and build your own house on YouTube if you wanted to. You know, I had a friend who started a business fixing computers. Knew nothing about computers really, but you just YouTube it. Any problem there is, the answer will be on the internet.
Yeah.
Imagine 20 years ago before that. So back to my point, as much as there is negative, there is always a positive to everything. That's the laws of the universe. So you could say 20 years ago it was easier, but then it was harder.
Yeah.
You could say, oh, it was easier, like years ago you didn't have this and you didn't have that. And I'm like, yeah, but you used to have to go out and kill your dinner. It's all relative, you know?
How far back are we going to kill
exactly
your dinner?
Like how far back do you want to go? There's always this is the yin yang saying, there's always the good and the bad. So every time you go, it's harder now, go, well, what is the opposite of that? It's easier now. How is it? And then look at that. Easier said than done.
I know. And it just made me think there as well, like, you know, there may be people who were in that position, you know, 20, 30, 40, whatever, how many years ago, going, you know, I wouldn't like to be growing up in this generation because of the way that social media is. But then you have to remember as well that this generation don't know any different either. You know, it's all that they know.
Sorry to interrupt, it's just come into my head there, especially there was the new kind of thing that was on about the Troubles. And I'm like, God, thank God we didn't have that growing up. And I go, we just had the bombs and the riots and the guns. Like, people forget.
Yeah, I know.
People forget. It's like, we had that instead.
Yeah. Like,
so it's this is what I'm saying. It's the yin and the yang,
you know. I love talking about the laws of the universe as well, you know, and the law of polarity is such a big one that a lot of people don't even, you know, I think a lot of people know, but they don't know what it is. They don't know what it's called, you know, so they just know the yin and the yang, you know, the good and the bad, the black and the white kind of thing, you know.
And here, what do we know?
I know, you know, you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. But I think as well, you know, like having a strong mindset and a strong sense of mental clarity and focus when you're moving into something that you want to achieve, whether it's a goal or whether it's something you want to start your own business, or even if it's, you know, starting a family, getting your own house, whatever it may be. And you talked a little bit about, you mentioned about, you know, going through depression when you were younger. And you also mentioned about your 20s as well. And I wanted to ask you a question around how you look back at your 20s and your 30s now that you're in your 40s, you know, were they like, because I know a lot of people say, you know, like the 20s were like the experimental period, you know, and then some people are like, when I turned 30, like everything changed, you know.
Where do you want me to start?
Let's go with your 20s. Let's go for it.
Yeah, because a lot of, again, you forget what you didn't know, you know. And I always see in my over 40s classes, I say to women, because obviously it's majority is always women. Of course, I get the odd guy, but just for the sake of talk, and I say, because they'll be late, say they're called over 40s classes, right? God forbid someone comes in and goes, is it all right if I come? I'm 38. Like, I'm like, yeah, I just had to pick I couldn't say over 34s, you know. But anyway, and I'll say some women are 42, you know, 59, 64. And they come because they're like, they think they're coming because they're like, oh, I've been wearing the same makeup for years and da-da-da. But then I'll do a really nice mindset kind of understanding. And I go, why do you wear makeup, or why do we do anything with it? To feel a certain way, right? But during the class, I'll say to them, ladies, if you had 30 seconds with your 21-year-old self, what would you tell her? Yeah? And they all sit. And they go, Jesus, just to enjoy myself. Yeah. Just to not care about what other people think. To just not, because, you know, we're worried about what other people think. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And you're figuring out life. And that is, you know, and I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women. And it's the same thing. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your youth. Stop worrying about what other people think, and you're so much skinnier than what you think you are. This is women.
Oh God.
And yeah, like they all go and they go, Jesus, I was gorgeous and I didn't know it. And I look back at pictures of myself now, and if only we could see. If only we could, and I go, okay, and then I'll say, well, what would you tell your 30-year-old selves? And a lot of them go, the same thing, obviously. Enjoy your youth. Enjoy only being 21. Enjoy only being 30. Because it's the youngest you're ever going to be at any moment in time. And they say, and stop bloody worrying about the state of the house. 30s, you're all about what the house looks like, and God, I can't have them calling up, I haven't got my washing, you know, or whatever. And silly things like that, and thinking, well, that's the right, as long as the kids are, you know, it's, or you're so busy with your kids at 30 or whatever. I'm generalizing here, but you know, stop worrying. Everything's going to be okay. And then, if, you know, we go on the coach, and then you see them all reminiscing, and then I go, so I'm going to ask you this. And they're like, right. And I go, what do you think your 90-year-old self is telling you now, if she could talk to you now? And they're like, that really gets them, because you get over a certain age and you start to think that you're old, you know. Like I remember turning 21 and thinking I was old. Honestly, I remember that day very vividly. And so when I start to think at 44, oh, I'm getting on a bit now, I just think of my 90-year-old self going, Ciara, behave yourself. You are fit and able and young and able to enjoy your life and it's the same lessons. Enjoy your life. Stop the worry. Stop the stress. Again, easier said than done, Padraig, but is it going to, you know, you hear these things like, is it going to matter in 5 years what you're worrying about? My PA in work, she has a thing up on the wall and it says, today is the tomorrow you were worrying about yesterday. And it's like, everything's okay. Your 90-year-old self is going, you're fine. You're doing great. That's your best friend. Listen to that person instead of the inner critic who's like, you're not doing enough, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Try and listen to that version of yourself. What would they tell you to do? They would tell you, you know, frig it, give it a go. You know, go on the holiday, or give the job, give the business a go if that's what you want to do. Stop being afraid. Who cares? So it's the same advice, you know. And so instead of feeling like you're past it, or you're this or you're that, go, thank God I'm only 44. That's
Yeah.
what I say now.
Yeah.
Instead of going, and you see the women coming into me and they're like, I'm 52, like getting on a bit. Whereas I'll flip it and I'll go, thank God you're only 52.
Yeah.
You're not 90. You can still use your legs.
Yeah.
And it's just, everything in life is just perspective.
Yeah, and
You know?
that really makes me think, like, you know, if you think to your future self, what would they be saying to you? And then it also reminds me of when I was younger, maybe, you know, early teens, and going, I can't wait to be 18. Can't wait to be 18. And then can't wait to be 21. You know, when you're younger, you're always, oh, I need to be this. I need to be, you know, older. And you're always trying to be older, most of the time anyway. And you can't wait to drive. You can't wait to, for some people, you can't wait to buy fireworks. Some people can't wait to buy cigarettes, alcohol, whatever it may be. I don't know why fireworks came to my mind. You're always wanting to be older when you're younger. And I suppose when you're older, you're wanting to be younger, you know.
It's
So if
the
you're in that
irony of
present
life,
moment,
isn't
you
it?
know, just take both of those,
Yeah.
you know, and think, well, how can I just enjoy this moment, you know?
Well, it's the law of polarity. It's looking back and going, well, what's the good side of only being 18?
Yeah.
But it's what is it they say about if only you knew now what you knew then? But you know, what is it? Youth is wasted on the young. You know, all that. But it's like, you know, isn't it amazing? Like, you're thinking life will be better then,
Yeah.
and it's amazing now. And this is all the cliches and all the sayings are sayings and cliches for a reason. You know, the present day is, you know, Eckhart Tolle teaches you about the power of now and all these things. And it's not as soon as this is you're asking me about my 20s and my 30s. My early 20s, I was having a ball. It was, of course, there was ups and downs, whatever, but it was all about holidays and going out at the weekends and, you know, what outfit you could get to. Late 20s was, you know, met my, you know, my ex-husband at the time, and building and buying a house and, you know, getting all my ducks in a row and getting married and having the kids. So that was late 20s. 30s then was all about recovering from the shit and building a new life and building a business. So for me in my 30s was chasing the carrot as soon as my business is doing this, as soon as I get this many students, as soon as I launch my products, as soon as I get the bigger premises, as soon as I do this, as soon as I lose that half a stone, as soon as I get the extension on the house, as soon as I get the new car, then I'll be happy, then I'll be happy, then I'll be happy. And this is what we're talking about. We spend our life doing as soon as. And then you hit 40 and you go, sorry, what? Because I look back in my 30s and it feels not like a blur, but like I was running a marathon and I never got to the finish line. And I look back at so many amazing achievements and so much, and I'm like, Jesus, you know, you go to social media 9 years ago today, you did this, and 5 years ago and I'm like, do you remember we done that? Remember we done that event? Remember we done that photo shoot? It's the not going, wow. And the stopping and going, that was class. And it's only now I look back that I give myself a wee bit of, you done all right.
Yeah.
You were doing great. Why were you so hard on yourself? You know? And that's the change in your 40s. That's been the change the past few years, especially, and my journey has changed so much in the past few years. Hence why Happy Face and the stuff that me and Kieran's doing.
Just a quick word from our sponsors on this podcast. This week's sponsor is Simply Zen. Simply Zen is one of the most amazing, magical and spiritual holistic and wellbeing brands in Northern Ireland today and across the UK. Simply Zen hosts a range of different events, a range of different training academies, and they also have fantastic products on their website and in store that range from crystals, such as the one I'm wearing on my neck at the moment, to incense, jewelry, novelty gifts, ritual items, and so much more. Everything for your magical needs. Simply Zen is the home of holistic well-being, and if you want to visit them, they're based in Belfast City Centre, and you can also visit their online store, simplyzen.co.uk. And if you want to check out any of the events they have on, they always put out their events at the start of every single month, whether that is training courses, ceremonies, retreats, or just a simple meditation and sound bath experience. Simply Zen is there for all of your spiritual, mindful, emotional, and well-being needs. They also have a range of different therapies such as Reiki energy healing, Indian head massage, Rahani celestial healing, Hopi ear candling, facials, and so much more. So if you're into your spirituality, if you're into your mindfulness, if you're into your well-being, check out simplyzen.co.uk. And if you're wanting to shop online for an amazing gift or something just to treat yourself, don't forget to use the code Tru North for 10% off. That's TRUNORTH, Tru North, in your voucher code at the checkout for 10% off. So why wait around? Make your life magical today with Simply Zen. Happy Fest. For those that don't know, like Happy Fest and what it's all about, you know, where did it come from other than your heart?
Yeah. So 3 years ago, a very good friend of mine, which a lot of people know, Stephen Clemens, took his own life. And I was going through, and then it was lockdown. I was so badly depressed at the time. And, you know, all these different factors. But basically, a snapshot of my life was I'd lost a good friend to suicide. I remember, this is going to sound a bit mental, but I remember being envious of him.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that?
Because he got out. That's how low I was.
Right.
I feel very emotional saying that. That's how low I was. I felt like I had this beautiful life. I had beautiful children, a beautiful partner, beautiful home, beautiful friends, beautiful family, beautiful business, successful business, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And I couldn't figure out why. So in a way similar to Stephen, because from the outside he looked like he had it all. And then what happened, and I remember feeling like, this is going to sound strange to say, but it became an option. I'd suffered from depression for many years, but him doing that put it into my head that it was an option. Does that make sense?
So for you, it was never something that
I would ever consider.
Beforehand.
Right. Because you have children, you know, but I was just like, I remember feeling, wow, maybe it is an option, because I was in so much pain. Yeah. And I was on all sorts of medication. I was on the highest dose of antidepressant. I was on anti-anxiety tablets. I was also diagnosed with a condition called PMDD, which is a hormonal condition, and went private to psychiatrists, gynecologists. The gynecologist recommended that I have a hysterectomy, that this will resolve said hormonal imbalance, which was bringing on the depression. And then I was on strong migraine medication because all the hormonal and all the other stuff that I was on was giving me migraines. So I'm on all this medication and I'm still up, and I have this beautiful life, and I'm still absolutely miserable and feeling like I didn't want to be in my skin anymore. And I remember out on the towpath, just sitting, beautiful day, I'm walking along the towpath and being like, surely God, universe, whatever you want to call it, higher power, whatever, surely this is not, what am I not getting? Yeah. What am I not seeing? And it's when you're in that much pain or uncomfortableness that you, in the depths of despair, the absolute depths of despair, because I was going, I've tried everything. I have tried everything to feel better and I can't seem to work it out. And it was just that moment of, I haven't tried everything. There must be another way. There must be other things. Maybe I just don't know what that thing is yet. Maybe I'm not aware. And so I then went, I remember going and speaking to my daddy about getting a hysterectomy, and I was petrified. And I was like, because if I had got a hysterectomy, it would have meant me going on to more medication for the rest of my life, HRT and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it didn't guarantee that it would cure my depression. So I remember being like, I need to physically try anything and everything before I take my organs out, because you can't put them back in again. Yeah? So I went, right. And hence I met Kieran May, and he threw me into the freaking cold sea. And I started to look really at, and I don't know why the word alternative triggers me a wee bit, because I think the connotations of the word alternative, people kind of roll their eyes a bit, or they think, oh, here we go, woo woo, or whatever. It's got a bad reputation, the word alternative, doesn't it? So original or different, I don't know, it's just a word. But I went, right, I'm going to try every other thing here before I take my organs out, as I say, right? And hence then the universe starts to align, and I met people who started telling me about plant medicines. And I got through into the cold sea, and I started trying anything and everything. I'm like, right, give it a go, because when you're in that much pain, you will move, and it's only when you're in pain will you want to move. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But so I went and did an ayahuasca retreat.
I have heard so many things. Well, I've never done ayahuasca myself. And I don't know whether that's just because I've never really felt fully drawn to it. I know some people that have, and everybody's experience is different, And just on the back of that, like, how was that for you? Was that the only time, or?
No, I've since done many different plant medicine journeys. Apart from my 2 children's births, it was the most significant thing. Well, I've had to, but apart from third to the birth of my 2 children, it is without a doubt the most significant thing that's happened to me in my life. I haven't been on medication since. Wow. No medication.
Since that first one?
Since that first one. I haven't been on antidepressants. I'm not on any hormonal imbalances. To say that it changed my perspective on life is the understatement, underwhelming version. And I know everybody's experience is different, but for me, that first retreat, the months that came after it at 41 or whatever age it was the happiest that I had felt from I was a child. And I couldn't believe that this is the way I was meant to feel. And I remember sitting with my younger sister going, is this how you guys have all been living your lives? Like, just feeling like normal and happy and content? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how much I had made myself unwell. And how simple life can be. And how simple happiness, contentment and serenity can be. Now, that being said, Padraig, I'm not, it's like, go and do one ayahuasca retreat and that's you. You are
Cured.
happy out for the rest of your life, because what happens is life will come back in and the programs will start to come back in and and unless you integrate the lessons that retreat or journey or whatever you want to call it shows you, you will fall back into the same patterns. And of course there's some, I'm not saying I had a burnout there the other week, and I had to then go, well, Ciara, you've been, to myself, you've been shown, you've been told, listen to yourself. The biggest lesson is listening to your body. The somatic stuff, going back to that. Your body is your guide. Your physical body will tell you when your life is out of whack. So, and again, many's a podcast, and I will get this message out. Why do we have pain and suffering? Why do we have physical pain? Why when you put your hand in a fire? Why whenever you hurt yourself in some way? What's the pain there for? It's to tell us not to do that thing again. You put your hand in a fire, it's freaking sore. So you're then go, I'm not putting my hand in the fire. Right? Yeah. So you now know not to do that thing again. And then when you take it out of the fire, the pain's still there. Your body now knows that's sending the signal to the brain to go to the hand to heal. It's so physical pain is there for a reason. It's there to give us a signal that something's out of whack and something needs to heal. Yes? Emotional pain is there for a reason.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that too.
The emotional pain is there for a reason. It's trying to signal to you something isn't right here. So for years, my body was showing me something was out of whack, and I wasn't listening. I was taking a tablet to stop my body from doing what it was meant to do. So, and I've got backlash for saying about antidepressants and whatnot. I think acute in the short term, when you're not coping, of course take medication. But as a long-term solution, for me, it stopped me from listening to my body. If you have a sore head every single day and you take painkillers every single day, that's not right. Yeah. Your sore head is trying to tell you that you're dehydrated, tired, stressed, or hungry. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you keep taking a painkiller every day and you're not drinking, drinking enough water or getting enough sleep, what's going to happen to your body ultimately? It's going to get really sick. Yeah. So that was the problem with the antidepressants for me, and hence why I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And my antidepressants, it was going up and up and up and up. And then it was manifesting into different anxiety and whatever, and then migraines. And it was like, my body was going, Ciara, please listen to me. Please listen that you're too tired. You're doing too much. You're putting yourself under too much pressure. Please listen to me. What was I doing? I was taking tablets to stop my body from doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah. And suppressing that. Yes. It reminds me of that book, The Body Keeps the Score,
Lost Connections. The book called Lost Connections by Johann Hari read that. It is a game changer. Wow. Yeah.
I think that when it just reminds me as well of when you were saying about the sore head, the migraines, the headaches, and scientifically we know that all illness and disease comes from stress. So the more stress you're putting on your body, the more it's going to actually turn into what I call, and what a lot of people would call, dis-ease of harmonic vibration, which is disease.
Yes, this is the talk of my language. This is it, dis-ease. Yeah. That's it.
And there may be people that are just, that just went poof on their head. They're like, oh my God, dis-ease? Yeah. But when I first read that and I went, right, well, if you have self-doubt, and you let that fester over time, which turns into anxiety, you know, which is more of a mental thing, and then that turns into depression. And when you're depressed, your body physically becomes depressed as well, which then turns into disease of harmonic vibration. I was like, wow, you know.
Yeah, this is my message.
Yeah.
This is my message. It was like because 20 years ago, as I said, when I was first diagnosed with, it was called irritable depression. I seemed to get very anxious and bejiggery and whatever. And my doctor said, it's just a chemical imbalance. You know, it's a bit like a diabetic needs to take insulin because your body doesn't produce enough insulin. So it's a chemical imbalance, and you just need to take this antidepressant because your brain isn't producing enough serotonin, endorphins, whatever. And I went, oh, right, okay, so it's not my fault. Which it's not, you know, we don't do it to ourselves on purpose, obviously. I went, oh, okay. And sent on my merry way at 26. And nobody knew. No one knew. It was just like, oh, she cares on antidepressants. And that was it. And that was just my label. And then listening to my mum and aunties and, oh, it's genetic, love. We're all on them. You know, it's just, I think it's just part of our genetic makeup.
And do you think when you were being told those stories that you accepted that belief?
Of course. Yeah, because why wouldn't you? If you're, my auntie particularly, who is something like 4 PhDs at this stage, is telling me this. You know, she's a nurse practitioner.
She's smart. She knows what she's talking about.
She's been on antidepressants for 20 years. She's a PhD doctorate over and over and over in the States, and they're way more advanced than we are. I'm like, oh, well, you know, my Aunt Debbie says. And I was like, of course, what do I know? Yeah. And then you even, like, psychiatrists and psychotherapists, all these people, because they're only giving you the information that they have become aware of. They're not telling you because they're bad people or they think, they're telling you because that's what they believe. Yeah. You know, so this is why, like, people are kind of like, the GPs just hand you this. You know, I have good friends who are GPs, and I understand. They have 5 minutes with someone who's in the depths of despair, and they know that this tablet will help them in the short term. So it's not that they're giving out medication to be bad or evil or not good doctors or people. It's because they're like, Ciara, what do I do here? Yeah. So we're kicking off into 50 million tangents, but so it's not a blame game. Everybody is trying their best with the information that they have at the time. Doctors, psychiatrists, ourselves, everybody. That's all we can do. But what I want to say to people is to think just maybe, we're just not aware of something. Maybe there is a different way. Maybe there's just something we haven't worked out yet. Maybe in another 10 years, said doctors and psychiatrists are going to go, oh my God, maybe there was a different way. And this is evolution. So, tangents again, but it's like, just open your mind. Open your mind that there might be something else, which is what I had to do 3 years ago. I was like, so in my head going, but I've tried this and I've done this and I've tried this and you don't understand, I've been through this and I have all the stress in my business and my kids and all the trauma that I've been through and it's my genetic, and I had all these stories going on in my head. And no, but you don't understand, like I've been on medication for years and it's okay for you, you have never been where I've been at. This is all, and I hear it all the time now, and I was like, oh my God, it's me 5 years ago. And you don't understand, I couldn't not take my antidepressant. Like I was 100% convinced I would be on them the rest of my life. And I was like, if anybody questioned me on that, my response in my head was, they just don't get it. They don't understand. I thought that they didn't understand why I was on antidepressants for so long. The thing was, I didn't understand. That's the irony. So I'm not telling everybody to go out and get off antidepressants. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you are still not happy, if, you know, it was just like, I'm on all this medication and I've done all the tick list of good nutrition, exercise, trying to meditate, whatever, and I still was very unhappy. You know, it's just, please be open-minded that maybe, just maybe, there's something you don't know. So then when I did the plant medicines, and I'm not saying everybody needs to go and do plant medicines, it's just finding whatever it is works for you. Some people have got massive breakthroughs through deep breath work, through yoga, through whatever your thing is to get back to being healthy. There's so many things. So when I experienced that and changed my whole life experience, how I was living life, perceiving life, feeling in my body, I was like, so I haven't had a migraine in months now. I haven't had any PMDD symptoms. And then, you know, I very rarely get sick. It's incredible. You know, I'd have been the one, would have been the cold or the flu or the stomach bug or whatever. And now I very rarely, yes, I still do sometimes, but very rarely compared to, I used to just think I had a weak immune system.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So then when people started coming into my makeup business and I talking and friends and whatever, and they were like, how do you know about this stuff? Because I was going, you need to try breath work, cold water swimming, hot yoga, meditation, all these different, you know, sound healing. Start talking about plant medicines, all the plethora of amazing, wonderful, beautiful things that are available. They were like, how do you know about this stuff? Where do you go? What does it do? What's Reiki? What do you mean, hypnotherapy? No one knew. It was, and I'm like, write these names down. Right, get your Instagram, you know, and I was trying to connect these people to these people.
Yeah.
And so last year I was doing a shamanic journey, which is just a deep meditation breathwork session for those who don't know what shamanic journeying is. And I got a very clear vision that my job is to connect people. My job is to connect these people to these people. And so I went, I need to do an event. Me and Kieran were meeting up, and I just said, he's the man, like, you know, and he was basically trying to, his purpose is like, I want to help people live a healthier, happier life. So it was the perfect combination. And he says, right, we're doing it. And hence Happy Fest was born. And it was like, that's it. And it's, you know, we didn't know if 50 people were going to turn up or 2 people. We didn't have a clue. We just went, well, what is our intention? And all our intention is, and it is because, and Kieran will openly say this too, he has had a hard journey. And it's like, we don't want people to feel the way we felt. I wish there had been a Happy Fest when I was 26, because I had to go to the bloody library to get a book out to understand why I was feeling, and it didn't really tell me. So it's like, I don't want people to suffer the way I've suffered, and I don't want people to get to the point of suicidal ideation. That is no way to live. It's no way to live. We're meant to be enjoying ourselves. We're meant to be, like, I had the most beautiful life and wasn't enjoying it. What the hell was that all about? You know? So it's like, I want people to enjoy their lives. I want them to feel healthy and happy, because it's a lot simpler than what any of us can understand and realise. And I think the work that suicidal awareness people, etc. and all do is amazing. And GPs given Imagine getting to the point where you don't feel that you need an antidepressant or you have suicidal ideation. That's a way on down the line. We should be teaching our kids and ourselves how to live this stuff over here. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's like this is emergency stuff. Antidepressants and suicidal ideation, suicidal awareness is lastminute.com. We should be promoting a healthier, happier lifestyle so that we never even get to that point.
When we go back and we talk about, antidepressants and things like that, for me, and again, medicine has its place, absolutely. But for me, when I see that, it's sort of like, you're taking that pill and it's putting a bit of a cap over the emotions. It's helping the symptoms rather than the actual root cause issue, and I feel like for a lot of people, if they were to maybe start coming off of those emotions are just going to come back up again. Still have to work
it's
with
scary.
Them.
It's scary because you're kind of a bit numbed out on antidepressants, but when you've for years and years and years, I didn't realize or think that I was numbed out. That was just now my normal, because it was years. And the way it's like, but I remember going, I don't feel like I have any real joy. Like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I hadn't felt that in years, so I just kept thinking maybe I need a higher dose. Now, I never felt really, the suicidal, what we're talking about. So it's nearly like here's really low, really bad. And here's normal emotions, that you can feel all emotions. And antidepressants kind of get you to here. And what happens is you're so afraid to come off them because you think you're going to go back down there that you stay here. And this is the trap of it. It's like, Jesus, no, I couldn't come off mine because what if I go back down there? But I lived here for years, so I never got to feel true joy and happiness, and to the point where I actually even forgot. I forgot how that felt. And it wasn't until I had to come off them, and it's hard because you do go a wee bit and you're like, oh, it's scary and it's hard, and you need to have your tools to be able to understand that that's normal, to feel it, a normal response to what you're doing. But then you get this feeling. That's what I was referring to earlier on when I was saying about my sister going, is this how you've been living? Like, just feeling this good, like just because it's Tuesday afternoon and we're going for a flipping ice cream. It was like, I forgot that that's how I used to feel. I forgot, and I'm just trying to hopefully give people hope out there to go, and for my kids, that's just normal. That's the way we should be living lives. And here, that being normal means that you're going to have really shitty days as well, and hurt and be in pain, and it's okay to feel like that. You don't need a tablet to push it away, or a distraction. That's normal. It's the push and the pull and the trying to never be uncomfortable. This is the problem with society now, and then we have no emotional resilience. So we think that there is something wrong with us when we feel really sad or low. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me. This is how I feel. No, that's a normal response. You
just got to process it. Like, just before we do start to round up, I just want to ask you one thing. I've been thinking about it the past wee while we've been talking. And you said, you had this great life, career, family, whatever it may be, the house, but you were just feeling miserable. And I just want to ask you now, is it the feeling that's changed, or is it the whole thing that's changed for you?
The perspective. My life, nothing before and after. This is the irony. The irony is nothing changed. My circumstances didn't change. My perspective on my circumstances changed. You know, still have the same house, still have Ciara Daly makeup, still have my kids, still have my friend. Do you understand what I mean? So it was like something, it's nearly like a bad filter, a lens that you're seeing your life through, that it's hard, that it's stressful, that it's sad because this thing happened and that thing happened. And it's like a really mucky grey filter that you're seeing your life. And when you start to do this work, that comes away and you're like, are you kidding me? How was I not enjoying? But I knew, and that's what illness is, that's what sickness is, that's what depression is. You when you're depressed, you keep thinking it's because of your circumstances. You keep thinking, well, if my mummy hadn't died, I wouldn't feel like this. Or if I wasn't so worried about this, then I wouldn't feel like this. If you keep putting it to. But then I remember looking at other people who have been through much worse than I'd been through. Not that it's a comparison game, because everybody's got their shit, but I remember being like, how are they so happy? They have had this, and this happen to them. But it was because their lens, it's a clearing of, and what we're talking about. There's nothing wrong with your life. It's your perspective of your life. I went to the bank yesterday morning, and of course it was the one day of the week that it opened at 10 instead of 9:30. And I went, for frick's sake, I was there 9:30 because I had to work Wonders to Shoot Miracles. And I went, right, I've half an hour to kill, and there was a homeless guy sitting outside. So I plunked myself down beside him and I started chatting to him. Lovely guy from Lithuania, had been here 11 years, and he started to tell me a story. And I started to ask him about his emotional health and his mental health. And I was like, how do you feel? I understand your circumstances are really hard, but how do you feel? And we're really, because this is what I do, I'll go, because I want to understand, how does a guy from Lithuania end up sitting outside a bank in Belfast? What's that journey about? And he says, I'm all right, I says, do you have hope? And what joy do you get out of your day? He says, I sit here and I draw these wee pictures. I says, are people nice to you? How do you get treated? It fascinated me. And I thought of my beautiful friend Stephen and myself, who had what looked like everything, but felt like he didn't want to be here anymore. And there's this guy, only in his early 30s, living in a tent, sitting homeless. What's the difference? So his circumstances, but he was yesterday, I'm not saying always, and I'm not saying the homeless is all right. I'm not being frivolous that way, but it was like, what makes them guys still want to get up and live and try and hope and dream and take the beauty in the everyday? I've been to Cambodia, where the kids literally had no shoes on their feet, and the happiness, and I was fascinated with, because I was quite depressed at the time. I went to Cambodia to work with in the slums and stuff, and being fascinated with why did I have the cheek to be depressed when these people, their circumstances were so much different. So it's a really interesting one, isn't it? The circumstances. So it's your insides, as I call it, or your outsides, which is your circumstances. And everything, to me, life is just about perspective. So if I am not enjoying my life, it's because I need to change my perspective on it. So I will go out and look for ways and people and things that's going to help me change my perspective, which is what this is all about.
Perspective is key. I love that. So the magic 3 questions are the very last 3. They're a bit sort of like thought-provoking. So the magic 3, the first one is, what is the best advice you've ever heard?
The best advice I ever got is about advice. Okay? Understand the difference between advice and opinion. So whenever I ask someone for advice, it's because they are successful in the thing that I'm asking them advice on. Like if I says to you, Padraig, what do you think I should do with my makeup business this Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay, you could give me an opinion, but are you the best person for me to ask that advice from? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I say to people, say for example, someone, let's talk about relationships. It's like, if you want advice on your marriage, ask someone who's in a really long, happy, successful marriage. Don't ask your other mate who's been through 3 divorces and not lucky in love.
Yeah.
They'll give you an opinion. So the best advice I ever had is be very aware of who you're taking your advice from, and are they successful in the thing that you're getting their opinion on.
Yeah.
So this is why I think that I am qualified to say to people who have been on antidepressants, I've now got success in getting off antidepressants and living a happier, healthier, more fulfilling, purposeful life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely. Number 2, what is the most valuable lesson you've learned in life so far?
To love yourself, as cliche as that sounds, to listen to again, it all comes back to the same thing, to love yourself, because if you don't put yourself first, which again happened to me the other week, I was trying to keep everybody else happy by saying to this and this, and putting their welfare in front of my own, that I burnt out, collapsed, and then I was no good to anybody.
Yeah.
So put yourself first, and that isn't in an egotistical way, that is in a loving, kind, compassionate way.
Yeah. Final question. Tru North is all about direction towards purpose. And we've probably touched upon this already. I think I know what the answer is going to be, but what would you define as your purpose at this point in your life?
My purpose is to inspire people to open their minds, to go, oh God, I never thought about it that way before. Just to give people hope, to help them find their courage. I always talk about courage, because when you're really, really depressed, my God, it even takes courage to get up out of bed and get a shower and get dressed and get your ass out the door. My purpose is to say to people, I promise you there's another way. I promise you. Believe in yourself, find your courage, and keep looking. And then you'll get it. And honestly, you'll be like, oh my God, right, okay. If I can help people to learn to love themselves more, we would all live in such a better, more beautiful place. And we need to learn this stuff for our kids, you know, and for ourselves and for each other, and the ripple effect. And can you imagine if we all got to know this stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
How different the world would be.
How different the world would be.
Yeah. Amazing.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being so open, so honest, and so vulnerable. I really, really appreciate it, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you very much for coming in and chatting to me. For those that are looking for you, that maybe haven't heard of you, or you're fairly new, where can they find?
Okay, well, obviously Happy Fest NI is Instagram, with the website's in motion. So hopefully the website should be with us in the coming weeks. Or you can find me on Ciara Daly Official on Instagram, or CiaraDalyMakeup.com. You know, my premises, Lisburn Road, if you want to come along there. Just all the usual channels. Ciara Daly Makeup, Ciara Daly Official, or Happy Fest NI.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do. You know, because we can't do it on our own. Yeah. And I'll leave you with this one. Someone says recently, we can't find ourselves by ourselves.
Yeah. It's all about community, all about connection. And this has just been amazing. So thank you very much for coming on, and have a lovely rest of your week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.